Running with Maverick and Wolfman. Hey guys, Maverick here.
Wolfman here. Don't forget to find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and the big one, YouTube. Hit the little notification bell so you know when we get release great things. What do we have tonight, Maverick?
We've got an exciting episode. We are on episode 50, the big 50.
Somehow we'll put confetti in there.
So it's a big episode. We're celebrating 50th, and we have a special guest tonight. Okay, so ready, Wolfman?
Born ready.
All right. Tonight's guest is Jill Heller, and Jill is not only a Spartan competitor, but also an ultramarathoner, amongst other things, I believe. So, Jill, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm not really sure where to begin, but so basically, I was never really a runner in high school or anything like that. Started running in 2014. I had a friend, like a coworker, asked me to do a 5K, which I was very hesitant to even do. And then from there, I kind of got hooked. So, I went from the 5K to started off doing a lot of obstacle course racing after that, Spartan race, and then kind of just try to do as much as I can from there. Tried to do a marathon, and then after that, I got into some ultra marathons just recently. Last year, finally got the 100 mile, and that was pretty exciting. So that's kind of my background from 2014 on till now.
Yeah, one of my friends said you have a very inspiring, interesting story, and kind of just jumped on your Instagram and kind of saw some of your competitions, and pretty impressive stuff on there. So, like, what kind of training are you doing?
So I've been when I first started, I honestly had no idea what I was doing. I played in high school and a little bit into college. I played field hockey. I was a goalie. So I always was into team sports and had, that competitive aspect. And when I had stopped playing field hockey, I actually had an injury in college that kind of took me out. And I ended up just stopping that and not sure where to go. So I was doing a lot of like workouts in the gym. I like to lift and would just go to like public gym and just do whatever. And then from there, once I started running, I really, approached it with a hybrid training style. So it's, I do like to lift and cross train a lot. So that's a big piece of my training. And then also just incorporating the running into that, which definitely has helped me, along the way. I'm a big believer in strength training to prevent injuries and just to stay strong, especially in obstacle racing. You need to be also strong and not just, a good runner. And I'm sure, as strength training is also very important for like injury prevention and all of that. So I kind of do like a hybrid mix. Now that I've gotten to the ultras, I've done a lot more running, just because you can't really get away with, low mileage when you're trying to run long distances. But that's pretty much what's, gotten me to this point.
Yeah. And what would you say is your biggest accomplishment in either the Spartan or the ultra marathon?
So Spartan race, when I started in 2014, I was like actually terrified. I was kind of like, no, I'm not doing this. I can't imagine running up a mountain. I'm not a runner. And I went to Palmerton was the first one. So may as well just start one of the hardest ones you can do. But at the time I didn't know. So from there, it kind of was just like, okay, well, this must be what they're all like. And, I traveled a lot and did a lot of like different distances. But I would say in Spartan race, I've been to world championships a couple times. Probably the hardest race I ever did was in 2019, Lake Tahoe, where it was like 20 degrees. And they made us go into the water at the top of the mountain. And it was a beast. So it was like so difficult because your hands are frozen. You can't do obstacles. And it actually took a lot of people out. They got like hypothermic. And it's one of the craziest races in Spartan history was the championships then. But
Wow.
besides that, I would say the Killington Ultra Beast is a monster. And I did that one in 2017, and I swore I was never going to do it again. And then this year I just signed up for it again. So I was like, yeah, I got to go try that again and see what I can do. But other than that, every distance could be difficult, or the Spartans, you're gonna get, but that's probably the toughest one so far.
Yeah. And how'd you do, like, with your, how did you place?
So 2019, Tahoe, I was like maybe 20th in my age group. I had a really rough day. So happy to finish, but leading up to that, I kind of want to keep going back to World Championships. And recently, maybe 2021, it started. They had it and started having it in Abu Dhabi. So I was like, I have to go to that. Like, I just have to see what it's like. It would be the first time I was like going overseas to race. And I actually, one of my workers knew somebody out there that kind of like helped me out. I went over there, I stayed with him, and they were very welcoming. But so I did Abu Dhabi in 2021 and 2022, I believe it was. And I actually ended up placing fourth in my age group both years. So
Nice.
that
Nice.
was a tough one. It was kind of bittersweet, like, oh, so close to like top 3. I didn't go back this year because I had wrist surgery and there was a lot going on, but I still want another crack at it to try to, before I go into the 40 age group. I have to get it done. So might be going back maybe this year.
Is the wrist coming along, or how's that doing?
Yeah, it's coming along. It was really weird. Like, I just started getting a lot of pain in my wrist. And obviously, as you know, obstacle course racing, you need to use your upper body a lot. So I thought it was just like something small, and then they were like, "Oh no, you tore." It's called your scapholunate ligament. So like, I tore it completely. I have no idea when I did it. It just started hurting over time, and then
Yeah.
probably falling trail running or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or walking one time I fell real hard walking my dog, and I still think that might have been what did it, but I'm just gonna pretend I heard it like trail running. But
Yeah, something
but
cool,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So anyway, the doctor, I actually had a really good doctor at hospital for special surgery, and he told me that I was maybe never going to do OCR again. And I was just like, well, we'll see about that. So I really have to kind of take care of it to protect the surgery, but it's gone really well. Like, I'm doing pull-ups. Like, I still can't do push-ups too well yet because I can't get the full range of motion, but you don't really need to. And in Spartan
Yeah.
race, it's more like hanging and stuff. So it's gone really well, and it's definitely better. Like, I'm not as strong as I was, but it's getting back there. So I'm just kind of trying to take it slow and make sure I protect the repair so I don't do it again. That wouldn't be good.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
don't do it again. Once is enough.
yeah, yeah. One good thing that came with the surgery, like, it was very, depressing when it happened, because I love Spartan race. Like, I just love doing, obstacle racing. And my goal when I started in 2014 was to build up to compete in it. And when, I was thought maybe it's not possible anymore, I was like, okay, well, what can I do during this time that this downtime? So I was like, okay, now's the time where I'm going to run and really try to get into like ultra marathons, since I can't really use my upper body that much. So I kind of try to look at it as like an obstacle, but also something that could get me, to be a better runner during that downtime, so I can be better at something else. And so I got into that kind of is what got me into like the ultra races last year, was just spending more time on my feet instead of using, upper body and stuff. So there's
Sure.
always good things that can come out of tough
Right.
situations.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, just take care of it so you don't have to repeat it, like we were talking about, and you're doing the right thing. Yeah, you
Yeah.
work on whatever
Yeah.
you can. So if you can't do the upper body stuff, you do the lower body. That's absolutely fine.
For sure. For sure. And
Now
I was really cautious with it.
I have to ask you, how many
Yes.
pull-ups is your record?
So I was 16. I was trying to, that was like when I was injured though. I was trying to do some kind of like, it was called, there was like a thing called the Go Ruck games that I was trying to like try out for, and you had to do these tests. So it was like, I had like actually a really hard time doing the tests, but I was able to do 16 then. So now I have
Nice.
to get to, I'm trying to go back up to 20, being cautious, but I just did a workout tonight with some pull-ups and it feels pretty good. I mean, I'll have to try to max test it again soon, maybe.
If Wolfman can't beat Mark Wahlberg, would you compete against Mark Wahlberg?
Right. Would you be our proxy? It's unofficial challenge number 3. I don't know. I can't remember how many did. I'm going to beat Mark Wahlberg. Challenge number 3.
He's far off.
That's right. Go for it.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun though.
Yeah, that when that actually happens, and I hope you have a lot more ability to do pull-ups by then.
I think I've got some time. We got to get a lot bigger before he comes on.
Right.
So, how about these ultra marathons? So, what's that like? Like, is it kind of like the Spartan? Do you feel like the Spartan is harder? Like, what's more difficult?
Well, no. So it's almost like a lot of it that goes into it is a lot of like mental training, if that makes sense, because your body could do some pretty crazy things as long as you like allow it to. But when you get deep into those races, sometimes it's really tough. So last year was my first 100K, and I actually I wanted to do, so I did World's End 50K twice. And I love that race. Like you have to, if you haven't done any World's End races, you have to do it. It's gorgeous, and it's you don't have any service, so it's just you and nature. And the first one I ever did was the Fall Classic, which is like the half marathon distance. And then I was like, oh, I got to try the 50K, and I did that twice. I got second place. I think it was like 2022, and I wanted to go back and try to do it again to better my time, but I actually put myself on the wait list for the 100K, and it's usually really hard to get in. So I was like, oh, I'm never getting in, but I'm just going to put it on, see what happens. Well, I get in. I'm like, oh, now I'm going to have to do this race. Like, and I didn't want to back out of it, but I was like, I always thought in the back of my mind, like, how am I going to run for that long? It just seems really tough. And I guess it's very similar to Spartan Ultra Beast in Killington, where it took me hours. Like I almost thought I wasn't going to finish at the time, but I did it. It was like nighttime. But anyway, that's another story for another time. But yeah, so I get in, and then I'm like, how am I going to train for this? So I did a lot of cross training, because it's with those distances, like, when you're not used to running a lot of miles, it could be tough to try to come up with a plan. And my whole main goal was to finish it. And so that's what I did. And I ended up finishing last year in 17 hours and 14 minutes. I kind of went out a little bit too fast, and then at the midway point I was hurting. So apparently at those races you have a crew, and my crew was awesome. Like they help you get through. They kind of bring your supplies to certain aid stations, make sure that you have everything you need, and then you get a pacer after a certain point. So like somebody could come with you to do the rest of the distance, because sometimes you're running at night, you're out of it, like it's another animal. It's crazy. So at the time, I came to it's called High Knob, and I came in there, I guess, looking pretty rough. I was like shaking really bad. They were really concerned about me. But I ended up finishing the race, and it was tough. Like I remember my feet just like really hurting really bad. And, but I was more concerned with like trying to get through with cutoff, because like you only have 19 hours. So like if you don't get there on time, you DNF. But I just was like more concerned about, I kept asking like I guess at the end of the race, my one friend that was pacing me said like every 5 minutes, I was like, do we still have enough time? Because you're kind of like delirious at that point. I'm like, that's all I was concerned about, was finishing. So but yeah, I finished that one. And I actually did Heiner 50K. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's also another big trail race in like, it's kind of near like State College.
Okay.
So between that race, I ran that race in a cast, which that was
what
probably
kind of cast? Like for what body part?
it was like it was from my wrist. It
Funny
was like a
cast.
removable
Okay.
cast. So it was a little bit, um, interesting. But yeah, I finished it, and then after World's End 100K, I was like, okay, I have to do Eastern States now because of it's called the PA Triple Crown. So if you do all 3 races in a year, so you do 150K, World's End 100K, and then Eastern States, you get to be put on the list of the PA Triple Crown. So once I finished those 2, I was like, I have to do this. I have to try this. Like it's, and then that race honestly was like the hardest thing I ever did in my life. Like Eastern States 100 is really, really hard. But I
Wolfman,
made
sign
it.
up for that one.
Yeah.
Do it. You could do it. I mean, that's like that race really kind of like was almost like life changing because when you really think that you are done, you still could continue. So
Right.
at that one, we encountered like a bunch of torrential downpouring, and like the weather started getting really rough after 40. And I from then, but people get cold just because you're at the 40-mile mark and lightning. The course was just like an absolute mess. And you go. It's a whole loop. So you do a whole entire loop of 100 miles, which is pretty cool. So there's no out and back or no repeating or anything. It's just so that was after the 100K. I did that in last August. And that took 34 hours.
Wow.
So
Who's counting? I mean, just
yeah, I wanted to probably finish faster, but I was really concerned about cutoff from that point too. Just because like there's so much that goes into like ultra marathons that you don't really think about until you do them. But
right.
one thing that almost took me out, which is like the thing that I never really thought was like chafing, which is weird.
Yeah.
But since it was pouring, like, you use like body glide, or, you use like trail toes in your feet and all that kind of stuff. But when so basically all that, it's rain and all that stuff just coming right off. And when I tell you I still have scars from that, I do.
I
And
believe it.
that was like the most painful thing, was that part. Like it wasn't the running, like, yeah, your legs or your feet or whatever. It was that, like, that every step was like super painful. And then you have to, in your mind, just try to keep continuing, even though like, you're just in like so much discomfort. So that's a big lesson that I learned, is to always in ultra marathons have body glide with you and try to
Sure.
get to that before it starts happening. Cause it was bad. But yeah, I ended up finishing, and I mean, I obviously couldn't do it without like, it's not only me, like my whole crew that helped me out too has like a big part in that. Just for them to be out there too for like 34 hours following you around and giving you everything you need is pretty, is really something. So couldn't do it without those people either.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, people will ask us questions because they don't really understand like what drives us to run and to go far distances and repeat workouts and do all this stuff that most people don't do. So I'm going to kind of pose that question to you. Like, where did this drive come from to do these, what some people would call like kind of really intense or crazy things that you're doing?
Yeah. I don't know. I was always pretty competitive as a kid, and I loved playing sports. I was a goalie in field hockey, and I think I just like missed that competitiveness. So when I started running, and then I was able to kind of incorporate that into my life again, that kind of became like a driving factor. Like, let's see how good I could get at this. That's how Spartan race was. Like, I was like, I mean, when I started Spartan racing, I wasn't good right off the start. I was pretty bad. It took me a while to,
But you did it. That's a huge
yeah,
accomplishment in
yeah,
itself. You know
like
what I
I
mean?
kept
Like you're
doing,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but like I just want to,
yeah.
give you credit for a second. Like when you're an accomplished athlete and then you jump into a new activity, you oftentimes have that mentality of winning, and you have to give yourself time to get good at it. which you obviously
sure.
have.
Yeah, and it becomes like a thing where it's like, let's see how good I can get at, at this, or it becomes like the new like motivating factors to like how, if I work hard, how much better could I be at something? It's just like the 5K. Like when I first started, I was just like, I remember my first 5K was Harvey's Lake, and people were doing like the whole lake, and I was like, oh my God, how could they run like that far? Like what? I can
hate
never
that
run that
lake.
far. And then all of a
We don't
sudden,
like running that far.
you
On that lake.
Not the
Right,
lake.
man.
Nightmares.
Yeah.
Flashbacks. Pole after
It
pole after
becomes
pole.
it hurts, but then it becomes like addicting at the same time because you wanted to see how, good you can keep getting at it. But I think that was motivating to me. And then I was like, okay, well, let's see. My other thing was like, let me try to do something harder. So like I would do Spartan race, and then once I saw I was capable of finishing these things, I was like, what else am I capable of? Like, especially like even the 5K, like, oh, what else could I do? So then I'm gonna do a Spartan race, and then I'm gonna what's after that? Like the minute that I did the Spartan race, I immediately signed up to do the trifecta. Because I was like, okay, I want to do the longer distance. And then, and I think that, helped motivate me, but just trying to see like what I was capable of, really just trying to push myself. And
Yep.
it's been a fun journey so far. I definitely didn't think, back then I didn't even think I would run. I would always try to avoid it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was a goalie, so I didn't want to run.
Yeah.
Try
Where
to
did you play? What college did you go to?
Misericordia.
Oh,
So
nice. That's where we went.
yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Cool. Yeah. So Um, I graduated high school in like 2003, and I played field hockey like that's all I did. I was going to tournaments. I would go to Harrisburg like every 2 weeks for the program. And then I had all these like offers to go different places for field hockey. And then I was kind of like afraid to leave home. I don't know. I was like, no, I think I'm gonna stay local. And my biggest thing was I wanted to play. So I didn't want to sit on the bench, and like if you go D1, D2, you spend a lot of time on the bench, and I just wanted to play. I didn't want to not play. So when I went there, it was preseason. We were running a lot, and it was for my hip flexor, and I never had an injury before that. I think I was just not used to. I trained a lot, but like, it was different in preseason because they try to really push you. And
Yeah.
I just was playing a lot, tore my hip flexor, and then from there, it was just like it was mentally tough. I mean, I was trying to go to college, and I wanted to do well in classes, but then I was traveling but not playing, and I just ended up like stopping playing because it was mentally it was just tough to handle at the time. It was something I wasn't used to, and it was just tough with the classes. So, I mean, that's one big regret of mine that I wish I wouldn't have just like stopped playing. But, it's just like a rough thing to go through when you're a freshman in college and you're never hurt, and then all of a sudden you're not playing, you're injured, and but I mean, after that, I picked up ice hockey. I was playing that for a while, just in the men's league. It was fun at the time. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I think
What
I think
position
once
were
I found
you
running was
playing?
fun. For, hockey,
Yeah.
I was, pretty much everything. It was like men's league, and it
Oh,
it was super fun at the time. Like, I was working for, Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, so we had, like, all of the people in the front office were playing, and, I played for, like, years, and, but I played defense. I think my favorite was, like, center.
yeah.
I just like that
Nice.
because you're all over the ice and stuff like that. But yeah, once I done running, I stopped playing hockey just because I wanted a fun Spartan race and trying to get better at that. And that consumed like everything. I was like, okay, I'm doing everything I can to try to, race competitively. So I just kept working towards it. And then 2016 I did my first elite race. And from there I just kept chipping away and chipping away. And um I don't know. It's just been a fun journey. And each year it's cool to see, when you look back, it's cool to see how you progress when you just keep putting in the work. Like sometimes you don't see it right away because you're like, oh, I'm just doing all this stuff and it's not working out. But then when you look back,
Right.
you're like, wow, I really came a long way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's cool to see.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
like to say that it took me 6 years to run fast, and then I thought after not running for a while, I'd get better and get in shape in like 6 weeks, and that's not true.
No, it doesn't work that way.
I
Wolfman,
mean,
do you have any questions?
I do. So I saw on your Instagram you've done Boston, so congratulations to that.
Thank you.
Have you done it?
Thank you.
Have you done it multiple times? And are there any other majors on the list?
No, this was my first year doing Boston, and that was actually pretty cool. So I ended up 2022. I ended up running Steamtown on Wolfman because I was like, let me just see if I could break my time. Like my first time I ran Steamtown was maybe 2015. I ran like a 4:36 or something, and then my goal was like, oh, I just want to run it faster. I did New York City Marathon with Alex Francis, and I think that was 2016. Yeah. So that was pretty cool experience. But for Boston, I ended up qualifying in 2022 for the at Steamtown. So it was pretty cool. Like I was just like, okay, we'll see what happens. And then my pacing was maybe I can make it. And then I just went for it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna just go for it, see what happens. I thought I was gonna fall off, but I ended up doing it. So this was my first Boston, and it was such a cool experience. Like I definitely want to go back. I think I'm definitely going to do it next year just because I had so much fun. And, like the people are just like so excited, and everybody's like really nice. Like you you walk in the subway like after the race, everybody's like cheering for you, and it's just like such a deal. They love their city, and
Yeah.
they take really good care of you there. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty
Awesome.
wild. It's pretty wild. And then so we haven't asked this one in a while, but what would you say the most unconventional thing is that you've consumed during one of these ultras or during the marathon or even training?
Let me think. That's a good
Bringing
one.
it back, number 50.
Yeah, I usually, it's funny because during ultras, sometimes I have a really hard time like getting food down but you have to eat, and you can't stop eating because you could get in a lot of trouble. So nutrition's super important. I think one of the random things I was eating, I remember at Eastern States, it was like maybe around like 60 or 70, something like that. And I would French toast sticks, and I was like, this is the best thing. So I remember eating that. So that's probably like the weirdest thing. And then they also this past race at World's End, I think it was mile 50 or so, they had a slushy machine. And it was awesome because a lot of times, cool. Like you can't eat because your stomach it's hard to like actually chew food, and when you're running hard or so the slushy went down good. But it was funny because the guy said to me, I said, oh, what flavors do you have? And he's like, well, we have blue and red and grape and something else. And I said, okay, I'll take the blue. And he's like, well, it has alcohol in it. And I was like, never mind, I'm not doing that.
Double, please.
But the grape one didn't. So I tried that one, and it was outstanding. I was like, okay, could somebody go get me another one of these? I kind of wanted to just sit there moving. Yeah.
Can you imagine
great.
if you were
So
like the guy passing that
things.
out and didn't know? You're like giving that to everybody. Here you go. I had no idea.
Yeah, he gave me a in the back of my mind. I was like, and I was like, no, that would be a terrible idea. Some people don't like doing that during races. I mean, hey, whatever works, right?
Yeah.
Some of the the PA races, they have like shots of like Fireball, and people do it like at Heiner, people are doing Fireball. I'm thinking like, how are you? That's awesome. But my stomach could tolerate it. It would be rough.
No way. No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't mix.
Maybe one, but there wouldn't be multiples for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds rough.
I mean, now it might make you, it might make it a little more exciting, and maybe, you forget like some of the pain you're in, but I'm not willing to try that yet.
No.
That's funny.
No, that's intense.
Yeah.
So for people that are just getting into ultra marathons or Spartan competitions, like what kind of advice can you give to those folks?
I would say, just take it like one day at a time, and it might seem like really far off at first or really hard, but you just keep putting the work in, and then you'll get better at it as long as you just keep showing up. And then it's about like building a base. So like you start off obviously just doing a 5K, and then when you just keep laying the foundation like bricks, and all of a sudden like you build a better aerobic base, and then it lets you do longer distances over time when you just keep putting in the work. So at first, I mean, sometimes it seems like everything's so far off or hard, but you have to just keep showing up. And I like to sign up for a lot of like races because it keeps me like motivated. And I do like to race a lot, like maybe I race a little too much. It keeps it exciting, and gives you something to train for. And sometimes it's just like the more you do it, like the better you get at it. Especially with Spartan racing, like with obstacles, practicing that stuff. You just have to kind of figure out like the best technique, and that could be tough to do. Like if you're just doing like 1 or 2 races at a time, like through the year. Like the more that you do, the better you establish like, oh, this is the proper technique for this, or this works out better. And yeah, just keep showing up.
Yeah,
sure. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, it is.
For me, I try, the hardest part is like, okay, let me try to not sign up for so many races, because, it's just, then you're not performing at like 100% when you don't have like 8 races. But I'm a believer in like, just in the number one thing is you should just enjoy it, because like that's the main part. And then
I would say if you enjoy the racing aspect and the competition aspect, which it sounds like you do, maybe sign up for like things that are just a lot shorter and quicker, like 5Ks, 10Ks, like things like that, where you can kind of get the competition, thing going without having to tax your body as much.
Yeah, for sure. I need to do more of those. Like 5K, I've never been like a sprint. I think I'm better at endurance, but I like signing up for those because it's a good speed workout, and then it's a good benchmark to see where you're at. So like,
Right.
even though the course might be a little bit different, it's a really good benchmark to say like, hey, like this is, where I'm at with my 5K. Am I getting faster? Depending on when you time it. You don't want to do like a heavy squat session the day before and then try to run it. But, like.
Yeah, that would be good.
Just,
patient about that, and I was like, well, you're not going to want to like do some crazy leg workout and then try to do other stuff. Like you're not going to do anything. You're going to barely be able to walk. But if you're doing a competition where you need to do crazy leg stuff, you're going to have to do it at some point and kind of get in shape for it. But if all you're doing is running, you're just going to run. You're not going to do crazy hill workouts or steppers or box jumps and all kinds of things. If all you want to do is just run a 5K on a flat surface somewhere,
Exactly. Yeah, there's a time and place for it in training too. Like, I try to lift, if I'm going to lift heavy, I try to do that in the off season. And then, during the season, it's kind of more of like a maintenance phase with strength training. Like you want to just keep everything like functioning as it should. And like correct them, I like a lot of like, single leg work exercises and stuff like that, just for injury prevention. But like if you lift too heavy and then you're trying to like do workouts, it's almost like counterproductive because you can't like hit the paces you want to hit, and it makes the runs way longer because your legs are heavy and it's tough. But
right.
But yeah, I've had success though with doing like the heavier stuff in the off season and then kind of just maintaining.
Yeah.
That's good.
Wolfman, do you have any
Yeah.
more questions?
I don't. I think between you and the stories, it covered the questions I had.
So I guess my last question is, like, what's your goal going forward? You've accomplished so much already. You know, you've placed really high. You're in the elite category. You've done ultra marathons. You ran Boston. Like, what is your next big goal?
That's a good question. I'm still kind of, I want to. I'm signed up for states again this year. I want to try to do better, and I went to Worlds and this year, and my goal is to try to run a faster time. I always want to try to do better to show, okay, I'm improving. But those long distance races are really tough to figure out because there's a lot of strategy involved there. You know what I mean? Like, it's your nutrition, if it gets out of whack, it could completely change everything. If you have an issue, with your footwear, or you're chafing, or, it could completely change the outcome of the race. So I think eventually I want to try to get better at those longer distances just to see what I could do there. But I mean, other than that, like, I just want to keep trying to do something harder, if that makes sense. So I have to find what the next challenge is after, Eastern States is pretty tough. I don't know if
Yeah.
much tougher than that. That's
Yeah.
that might
We've
be
heard this
hard, but
before. We've heard this
Yeah.
before, where you got to go to the harder, more difficult, challenging event, and it's hard
yeah.
to find one at some point. But you will. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, I vied up the they have I love Lake Tahoe. It's like one of my favorite places ever. It's beautiful there. I've done, Spartan races there, and they had world championships there a bunch of times. But they have the Tahoe 200, so it's a 200-mile race around Lake Tahoe, which is probably amazing. But it's also at altitude, so that could be really tough if you're not acclimated to that. So I don't think I'm ready for that just yet, but I definitely was eyeing it up. I was looking at it actually because the watery just went up like the other day, and I was looking at it, but I was like, I'm not, let me try to do Eastern States again, and and then other than that, just I'm still Spartan racing. Like, I did I'm doing the series this year for the North American um championship, and I'm doing the age group one this year just because I'm still coming back from like my wrist surgery. Um and I'm getting used to obstacles again after that. But I did the Jacksonville race. I did Big Bear, and now I have Utah coming up in July. So the goal there is to try to win the series in my age group for this year. So
Awesome.
hopefully that'll be, just small goals for this year. And then I'm toying with the idea of trying to maybe just try to better, my marathon time, because I enjoy just like trying to progress there too. So I don't know. I think I might try to work on that and maybe do a fall marathon and see what I can do.
What's your current PR for the marathon?
So this year at Boston, I ran a 3:23.
Nice.
In my PR before then was a 3:25. So I took 2 minutes off. I was on pace for a 3:15. That's what I was trying to do. And then when you get to the hill section, it got really hot. It's no joke. Like, that beat me up. So I'm training in South Florida now for the most part, which is not ideal for these races that have a lot of hills and elevation.
Wow.
But
It's a wee bit
yeah,
different.
yeah, the humidity's killer. It's really tough to work out here. I mean, because even if you go on a 10-mile training run, like the RPE for that, or a 10-mile run, I'm sorry, there's no trails here. There's not a lot of trails here. But if you go, it's just so much higher than if you ran on a cool day.
Yeah.
That's tough. But, I think it's like a challenge for me to try to say, I could still live somewhere flat and excel at these races. So that's another goal of mine too, to try to figure that out. I definitely think there's a way.
Yeah.
But it's just like figure it out. I use an incline treadmill a lot, and I try to, when I get home, like run, when I go home and stuff like that, as much as I can on trails. I definitely miss it a lot. Like it's,
Yeah.
Running trails is so much better than the road, in my opinion. Anyway.
There's good and bad to anywhere you work out at. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can always
cons.
find a way to train though. Like you're right. You absolutely, you can live anywhere and you can train, but it's just different. It's just different.
Yeah. The hardest part for me is like the downhill portion, because you can't really get that here. You can't get it on the treadmill and you can't get on the road. And bridges, people say bridges, but it's not enough. It's not like that real steep.
Right.
So I've been playing around with like a lot of like eccentric, like squatting and, doing stuff like
Sure.
that, lunges, try to see if I can. You can't completely, mimic it, but you can, try to do the best you can. So my legs were so beat up after Boston. They were not used to the downhill. I was sore for a while, and then, but hey, I still did, a little bit of a PR. So that was good.
Sure. That's great. No, that's great.
Yeah.
Great time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fun just I always try to just, do better and just to show like progression, like what I'm doing is working, and that's all you can do.
I think you're doing awesome.
Well, thank you so much.
Really inspiring, and I am not looking forward to even doing the 10 mile that I have coming up, but what you're doing is amazing. So like I said, congratulations, keep it up. Way to go.
Thank
Our
you.
listeners love hearing this story. And just let us know how you do with the upcoming, and is there anywhere that like our listeners can see, your Instagram or anything that, to follow you and see how you're doing?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Jill Heller on Instagram. JILLHELLER. So I
Very
post
good.
most of my race, my race recaps and stuff on there.
Awesome.
And yeah. But 10 miler, good luck. Is that by any chance the Wyoming Valley Run?
It is.
Nice. That looks like a good one.
You can come and run with us if you want. Beat us up.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to try that one. I mean, especially now, like I'm running a lot of flats. Those should be good for me, because
Yeah.
I think that's a flatter course. So that's pretty
That's
cool.
what they
Hey,
tell us.
no matter what race you do, like even if it's a 5K, if it's a 10 miler, whatever it is, every race is hard. If you run it hard, like it doesn't matter what this is hard.
Yeah.
And doing anything is an accomplishment. Like,
but doesn't that suck that every race is hard? I'm still waiting for the easy race.
It doesn't. It does at the time, and then when you finish, you're like, "That was awesome. I'm gonna do it again." But during the race, you're like, "This is the worst idea ever. Like, why am I doing this?
Why am I doing this? It's a great day. I shouldn't be here doing this to myself." Right.
Yeah. But then when that's another thing that keeps you coming back when you do it, and then you're like, "Okay, what's next? Just try something else or better my time or whatever."
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, if you
It's a
want
lot
to
of
join
fun.
us, let us know.
Well, thank you. Hey, if I'm in, sure.
Absolutely.
I love to race, so
Awesome.
definitely.
Well, thanks again. We really appreciate it,
Yes.
and best of
Thank
luck
you.
with your next race or races.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And it was great
Absolutely.
talking to you guys.
You
And
too.
good luck
Same.
with your races and training, and you're going to do
Thank
great.
Well, I'm going to need it. He's fine. All right, guys. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
All right. Maverick and Wolfman running out.